Deva. SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM Book 3 Discourse 8 Brahma's Manifestation. Dharma Mahavira ki Jai, Jai Tai Jai Gaur, Jai Jai Sri Radheshyam. Maitreya said, "Oh, the race of Puru has become worthy of adoration even by noble men ever since you were born into it, you, who are no other than the god Yama, one of the protectors of the worlds, so devoted to the Lord, and you left fresher and newer charm at every step and every moment to the garland of Sri Hari's glories by your pertinence question." 2. Now, in order to relieve the grace woe of men who fell into it in their search for trivial delights of sense, I commence the Bhagavad Puran, which Lord Sankarshan Shesh himself was pleased to teach the seers Sanaka and others. 3. Eager to know the truth about the Lord, who is even higher than Sankarshana, Sanat Kumar and the other sages approach and question Lord Sankarshana, the first among the gods, whose wisdom knows no obstruction and who had ensconced himself in the subterranean region of Patala. 4. Sankarshana was at that time engaged in offering mental worship to his own source and stay, whom all the Vedas call by the name of Lord Vasudev, and in order to afford the light to the sages, Sanat Kumar and others, he had now partially opened his eyes that resembled a pair of lotus buds, and which he had turned into inward till then. 5. The sages reverentially touch with their matterlocks drenched by the water of the heavenly river Ganga the lotus that serve as a support for his feet, and which daughters of the serpent chiefs lovingly worshipped through various offerings with a longing to obtain a suitable match. 6. The sages who were conversant with his doing repeatedly extol them in accents that falter on account of affection. The 1,000 noble hoods of the serpent god were brightened by superb gems set in his 1,000 crowns. 7. Tradition says that the most worshipful Sankarshana taught this Bhagavata to Sanat Kumar, who is devoted to the path of renunciation, and the latter, in his turn, O dear Vidura, imparted it to Sankyajan, who had taken a vow of strict celibacy, and asked him questions about the same. 8. Sankyayana, the foremost among those who had realized the truth, in his eagerness to recount the glories of the Lord, repeated it to his devoted pupil and our preceptor, Parashara, and then to the sage Brihaspati. 9. Urged by Pulastya, the gracious sage Parashara reproduced that foremost Purana, Srimad Bhagavata, to me, and I now proceed to teach the same to you, dear child, who are so reverent and even devoted to me. 10. Prior to the creation, the world of this universe was submerged in water. At that time, the only one that exists was Lord Narayan, who lay on his couch of Shesha, the Lord of Serpents, having thus his eyes on a top account of sleep in the form of deep meditation, although his consciousness was wide awake even then, ceasing from all activity in the form of creation, preservation, and dissolution of the universe, and revealing in the bliss of his own self. Having deposited the subtle bodies of all the jivas in his own body, the Lord reposed on those waters, which serve as his resting place, even as fire remains latent in wood, concealing its burning capacity, etc., keeping only his potency in the shape of time active in order to rouse him when the time of creation arrived again. 12. Having thus slept on those waters for a period equivalent to 1,000 rounds of the four yugas with his own energy in the form of consciousness about him, when he was shown the residue of karma, all of all the jivas by his potency called time, which had already been directed by him for this purpose. He saw countless worlds merge in his own body. 13. When his eye thus fell on the subtle matter in the shape of subtle bodies which lay deposited in his body and which was now rose into activity by the Rajaguna, the principle of activity impelled by time, the same issue out of his navel in order to evolve grosser forms. By force of time which roused into activity the residue of karma of the jivas, that subtle matter which came out of the navel of Lord Vishnu sprang all of a sudden in the form of a lotus bud, illuminating with its splendor that vast expanse of water even as the sun. 15. The all-pervading Lord Vishnu himself, O Vidura, entered as the inner controller, that lotus representing all the 14 worlds, which brought to light later on all the objects of sensuous enjoyment. When the Lord entered the lotus, there appeared from it the Creator, Brahma, who is no other than Veda personified, and whom they call self-born, because his progenitor was not to be seen. 16. Perched on the pericarp of the lotus, Brahma failed to perceive any word, turning his neck all round. Therefore he looked about in the sky with distended eyes, and was immediately endowed with 4 faces, one on each side. 17. Lo, resting on that lotus, which had emerged from the waters uproarious with waves, tossed by the fierce winds, which characterized the period of universal destruction, Brahma, the first god, could not make out the reality of that lotus, which formed the basis of the coming words, not of himself. 18. He said to himself, Who I am, seated on the pericarp of this lotus, and whence can this lotus be? Standing on these waters all alone, without any support? It can therefore be easily understood by any sane person that there must be something underneath it on which this stands supported. 19. Reasoning thus, he divided into the water through the pores in the stalk of that lotus, but much as he strove to find of that lotus, but much as he strove to find out the base of the lotus stalk, Brahma therefore failed to get at it then, even though he approached it. While he thus looked about for his own source in that impenetrable darkness, O Vidura, there elapsed a very long time, which is nothing but the Lord's discus, Sudarshan, that inspired terror in the heart of living creature and cuts short the allowed span of their life every moment. श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। श्री राधे।